Hey y'all, my name is Nash Juni. My pronouns are they, he, and I'm a gender fluid trans man. I wanted to start this YouTube series interviewing people in the community, especially transgender and gender nonconforming people, trying to get our stories out there, trying to make sure that we have a platform and that we are heard, especially with everything going on in this country right now, involving transgender rights and just basic human rights. I think it's very important that our voices are heard. So I really hope you enjoyed the series. This will be the first of hopefully very many more. Enjoy.
Up with liberation!
Down with discrimination!
Up with liberation!
Down with discrimination!
Just a few months ago, in June 2023, I don't know if you heard, but the Human Rights Campaign, they released a statement declaring a national state of emergency for LGBT people in America. This is the first time in history that they've released like a state of emergency. It was like a surprise that it happened, but like at the same time, it wasn't like for me something that I didn't see coming. Unfortunately, with everything that's been going on. They also released a free guidebook that outlines discriminatory laws and how to identify safe states, how to finance moving, how to find jobs, and other key like survival, guides in reaction to all the laws that have been coming out. But what was your reaction when you first heard about that?
Well, on one hand, this is definitely not the way I was thinking I'd ever feel seen by such an entity, if you know what I mean. Because
Yeah.
I'm used to either just this sort of like vague people just sort of looking the other way. Like, for example, California is considered a blue state. Yet at the same time, there's definitely still that not in my backyard sort of a vibe to a lot of things, you know? Again, I guess it was one of those things where I've been seeing it kind of coming, but I never thought it'd be acknowledged so like through such a means, if that makes any sense at all. Definitely moments where I have to question what I'm doing and the way I'm doing it. Almost feels like the security I have comes from like a sense of almost kind of knowing how to walk around certain things socially. For example, there's a lot of times where I feel like I'm not 100% out to everyone I know, you know? Almost like if they want to assume something and it feels like their assumptions at best, I'll take it just to kind of get through the day, you know? But,
Mm-hmm.
there's moments where I could tell, like, no matter how hard I try, ultimately, it's, people still kind of like have some sort of, I don't know if that's the best way to word it, but like, well, here's the story actually, and I think this story illustrates it so well. I was at the mall one time. This was years ago. I didn't even know too much about myself at the time, even, I was just kind of dressing the way I like to dress. I presented as what I assumed was, cis het at the time. But here I am. I go into like the public restroom in a mall, and I hear this old woman calling security. They're like, a woman just walked in there, and I'm just sitting inside the stall. And I see the security guard. They're kind of looking around, just trying to figure something out. I step out to see what's up. I'm washing my hands, and they look at me for a second, and it almost feels like the fact that I was growing my facial hair at the time was kind of like the only thing that told them, okay, what's this woman talking about? And, this has happened to me a few times here and there. And the only reason I felt comfortable in these situations, I feel like, was almost like a learned sense of dissociation, if that makes any sense,
Mhm.
Kind of like I have to convince myself that, well, they can't be talking about me. They can't be talking to me. They must mean someone else. And then I just sort of move on. And, obviously, I'm telling this story now the way I am. So there clearly is sort of some sort of, you know, I know they're referring to me. I know they're talking about me. And, you know, there are those moments still where I'm still kind of, going about my business, and I'm like, it almost feels like you have to convince yourself you don't exist and anyone can perceive you only when you want them to perceive you to kind of, get by comfortably.
What anxieties have these laws brought like to you? Like how does that make you feel?
Honestly, it's rough. I have friends that are definitely a little bit more. I have friends I'm a little bit more worried about than even myself. I definitely feel. And on one hand, I do feel kind of glad that at least in the valley, like the areas I kind of interact with the most, it feels like even though I'm not seeing a lot of people who are like vocally supportive, they want to be neutral about things to the point where
Mhm.
I don't really feel like they have any strong negative opinions. It almost feels like honestly, I feel like my involvement in the community, the fact that I'm such a familiar face to a lot of people, it kind of does feel a little bit like a shield. I go to the local pub, I go to Coffee Bandits. I've known like a lot of the owners around there for a while, and don't get me wrong, they still dead name me here and there, or maybe they just kind of come with their own assumptions, but I still know if something happened to me outside of those businesses, these people are still gonna, say something about it. They're still gonna help me out if I like want the help.
Mhm.
But I don't feel like they're gonna be that way for people that they don't really know too well. I feel like
Yeah.
they do their best, but it's almost a benefit of being well known in an area.
Small town areas, that's definitely how that stuff works. I'm from Kansas, so lots of like small towns when you're familiar and stuff, people want to kind of like help and support and protect you, but like if you're like someone they don't know, they're not going to care.
To me, I always kind of felt like all we have is each other in this world. It's the thing I tell people, and it's the thing I say when people will help me out because you know, I've been in those situations before where it's like I'm stranded in this town. I don't know anyone. I have like cigarettes in the car, and I'm trying to see if I could sell these to make like I don't know $3 to like put in the tank or something.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's kind of hard when no one knows you. They don't know where you're from. You're just this unfamiliar face, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that our country is so there's this sort of like a learned paranoia that we have about total strangers or people we don't understand. And I think a lot of these issues kind of stem from it. You look up in like the suburbs and like we don't even have like porches the size that they used to be. You see, it's like so strange for neighbors to talk to each other sometimes. I remember when I first moved into this area, we have these neighbors and I've waved to them a few times and they look so stunned, like, what, me? That isolation I really feel like is such a it's almost designed into our architecture, just like the hostilities, the paranoid thoughts, the sort of like well, I guess just everything that kind of keeps us from getting along with each other at the end of the day.
That isolation, you like, because like when you put yourself in a bubble and you stay within that same bubble, that gives you no room to learn, to grow, and you're gonna make your own assumptions. You're gonna be hearing like what the media is saying and saying like, oh, trans people are
Mhm.
pedophiles, trans people are trying to like, you know, do
Yeah.
stuff with your kids, like trans people shouldn't be using these bathrooms, like different things. When you stay in that little bubble and that's all that you're hearing, that's what you're gonna start thinking. But when you actually talk
Yeah.
to people and expand your bubble and like start exploring different cultures and different things, it's
Yeah, and I
you're
feel
gonna be able to understand a little better.
Yeah, and I feel like social media too has such a big role in it, especially at Facebook. When I was younger, I used to really be into it, like because this was around, I want to say, the late 2000s, early 2000s. That's kind of like where it started to die off for me. That was around the
Yeah.
time a lot of older people started getting into it. And I'm not
Mhm.
going to think about it specifically because of age, but I do think once Facebook became more accessible, the means of being profitable kind of became a little bit different because you look at the way algorithms work in social media now. I see it as almost like they're trying to keep people there. They want people to be engaged, and this is the thing I've noticed, especially with millennials. I mean, I'm a younger millennial, so I feel like maybe it's something I've seen firsthand. It's that people love to be angry on the internet.
Oh yeah.
And I feel like everything from Twitter to Facebook, they all thrive off of that sort of negative energy. What is your cat there?
Yeah,
But
she's a sweetheart.
yeah. Oh man, I love calicos. Or oh, she's a tortie, isn't she? Oh,
Sorry, what were you saying?
no, it's all right. I love her eyes. But yes, no, I've noticed when it comes to like social media, it's so I use the term it's like a psychic vampire or something, you know? Everyone's kind of like on there because they like engaging with things that make them more upset. And I've been noticing it's almost been instrumental to the rise of fascism, especially with a lot of the older generation, because of the fact that, I mean, a lot of these people, they only use Facebook. My parents only use Facebook. I hear all these crazy and radical like theories sort of kind of pop up from the site that everyone's sort of sharing with each other. And I think it even comes all the way down to like, I don't know if you notice this like phenomenon of like a local hometown pages where they basically just have people walk around with cameras. They're
Hmm.
just like following the news and stuff. And at first, it's so interesting because there's this voyeuristic fascination with just kind of figuring out, okay, where's this fire happening? Why are the police here? You know? And I've noticed it always eventually devolves into sort of like this angry mob sort of mentality, you know? Almost like these people are unconsciously kind of digging into the fact that like the more people are outraged, the more people are watching what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because it kind of like ties right back to this sort of a reactionary atmosphere. And like you're saying before too, it's a lot of people a lot of their discriminations kind of stem from this very out of touch sort of thing. They see these stories online, they don't even want to check if they're true or not. They're outrageous enough for them to, they want to share it, they want to talk about it in the comments, they want to complain about it. And you could try to like talk to them about it, like, well, you know what, that's someone else's life. I'm just gonna focus on me, and maybe that might like snap them out of it for a second. But it's a pattern there. It's definitely a sort of a feedback loop.
Yeah.
And I do feel like that's something that's definitely kind of like pulling things right back, because this has been an argument I've been hearing a lot, and it's kind of interesting sort of seeing how the I guess the reactionary arguments against any sort of queer group I've noticed has sort of changed over the years. Like for example, when I was in middle school, I remember the scapegoat or the poster child that used to be for homophobia for that time was probably, I'd say, the hatred towards people that were perceived as emo. I remember like a lot of people would, they'd look at that aesthetic and they'd make it about being suicidal. And you look back now and that sounds kind of crazy. Why would you be mad at someone for being depressed?
Yeah. No,
It's like
exactly.
that's someone who's struggling. You should be empathetic. But that was the whole the dog pile people had. They saw people with these issues and they said, well, why are you mad? You live in the world's greatest country or something like that. And
Hmm.
it's all kind of well, it's all nonsense. I guess that's really what it comes down to, just people just sort of convincing themselves this is something worth getting angry about. Again, you could tell with the slurs they're using to describe these people, the way they're criticizing these people, and what they're really ultimately talking about are men who look feminine to them, men with like long hair, men with eyelashes, men with like issues of depression, and you know exactly who they're talking about, who they're referring
Hmm.
to. And it's not
Exactly.
exactly, yeah, and I see that kind of thing sort of devolve over the years, and it's sort of interesting how it's been so accidental, and to this point, it feels more like it's by design, almost like the algorithms just sort of said, "Well, this is working." They don't care about whether it's working for this reason or that reason, but they've ultimately kind of refined that sort of angry bandwagon mentality, and at this point, it's almost like a pipeline that people sort of go through.
Yeah. No, definitely. I wanted to talk about a little bit like growing up. Were you like supported when you came out, or was it, you know, homophobic parents?
Honestly, I think for the longest time, no one really took it seriously. Because like for example, when I was really young, I remember my cousins would put me up. They like to dress me up,
Hmm.
There was like a time. There's like a photo of me when I was like really young. I was in a dress, and I'm just kind of like just kind of like smiling around everyone. And it's a good memory to everyone in the family. But they look back at it as kind of like a little funny moment. And
Hmm.
another funny moment I look back is like where they decided to dress me up in a totally different way, more masculine. They cut my hair super short. They put me in these baggy jeans and this oversized white t-shirt so I look like my cousins. And the photo is I look so mad. I look so upset.
That's so
And
funny.
it's like, yeah, and everyone just has the most like vanilla look at it. They're just kind of like they're thinking, oh well, this is like just a silly moment here with this person. And I look back and I'm just like, oh wow, I am surprised it took me so long to realize what was going on with me.
Yeah, no, definitely. Is there anything you would like to communicate to like young queer people in the community who are trying to figure themselves out?
It's never too late if you feel like you wish you found out before. It's just kind of a part of life. You don't always know everything right away, and personally speaking, I've gaslit myself for so long, even when I had the slightest clue. So, sometimes you the best, but sometimes it takes you a while to like understand that. I've
Yeah.
definitely had friends who have like before, like in high school, middle school, they tried to make the argument like, oh well, you could still be straight, you could still be cis. Here's the reason why. Almost like they're insecure about your own sexuality. Like for your own sake, they're trying to convince you.
Hmm.
And it's basically just kind of at the end of the day, you just gotta kind of look inward and understand that everyone's kind of going through their own thing, and how you're going, your path is your path ultimately. And it's never too late. There's a lot of grief that kind of comes with it, but things work out in the end.
Hey y'all, thanks for watching my YouTube video. Links will be down below. I think it's very important that our voices are heard, especially these queer voices. I look forward to making more videos in the near future. My cat is just going crazy. To all the he's, she's, and queer peeps, I hope you stay safe and have a great night.